today? More than ever, HR professionals need to stay in the know to remain compliance and culture savvy. This podcast is about creating space for HR professionals to make sense of that delicate intersection and take away something valuable that helps you, your organization, and of course, your people. We'll unpack state and federal legislation, agency activities, court decisions, and so much more impacting the HR community right now. Here comes a disclaimer. Go ahead and read that. These days, you've got to be careful. Okay, that's good. You're getting it in. Now, let's get this conversation going. I'm your host, Tracy Justice, with co-hosts Rachel Gwynn and Chris Schrader. Who's your HR? Let's go.
All right. Well, welcome. Today I am writing solo. It's been kind of a crazy month dealing with health issues, and there's so many different things going on this month. So I figured last minute, and then I'm also having computer technical issues. So I figured, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and go on. Because it's something that's been on my list. This is something that I wanted to do last week and didn't get through it because of not feeling well. And I definitely didn't want to cancel it. But there's a lot of stuff going on. So I am just going to just talk and have fun and see if any of you guys are online and want to chime in with some questions. I would definitely love your participation. Join me. Okay. So some of you all know that some of the things that I like to do when I volunteer or I support an organization that I believe in, I like to use my platform to support that and to give and to give, right? To give back. And so with this program, even though it is not sponsored by any group, it's really sponsored by me. I fund everything that I'm doing with this. However, I do use it to also have an opportunity to showcase anything that I'm doing for other groups that I support. So in supporting SHRM Indiana, you all know that I do. I am the director of government affairs for SHRM Indiana, and so in doing some of that, I do want to talk about some of the things that we're going to be doing this year, and I'm combining it with some of the other things that I do, and so I want to start talking about it so I can start gathering stories. Now, you all know, or maybe you don't know, so let me just say this. When I first started this podcast, it wasn't called Who's Your HR, but it was Finding Your HR Advocacy Voice. It really was about learning advocacy, right? Understanding advocacy. Because I had gotten involved with politics. And when I got involved with politics, what I realized is that there's too much loyalty to becoming so partisan, right? Like you really have to jump on a side and pick a side. And what I realize is that I don't care to pick a side because I honestly don't care for either of the narratives, right? I don't really care about that. But what I do really do care about is getting more people involved in the process, right? Because what I've realized is that there are a lot of things that are happening, a lot of decisions that are being made without us being a part of it, including HR and outside of HR. There are a lot of policies, legislation that goes through, and we as the people, we don't really understand it. And when we want to understand it, or when we begin to try to understand it, it's already too late. It's already law, right? It's already happening. And then now it's something that we have to comply to. So instead of being proactive, now we have to be reactive. And I don't know about you, but I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling of feeling powerless. And so when we're informed, when we're educated, when we fully understand all sides of an issue, we can present ourselves and we can be a part of the conversation and not feel so attached to forgetting that the other people that we're working with are people as well, right? Like, how do we bring humanity back into advocacy? Because at the end of the day, that's what it really should be about. It should be about people coming together and really understanding legislation and really understanding how it impacts people, how it impacts the key stakeholders. Is it going to do what we think it's going to do? Right? Because sometimes we think we know what it's going to do. And then when it's law, then you realize that there are so many questions that you have. And so, with that, what I wanted to do is share SHRM Indiana's state priorities, because that is something that I'm going to be working on. And and I feel like it does take quite a bit of time to really start gathering stories and really be intentional about that. And so with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain some of these state priorities and how SHRM is, looking at that. But what I'm going to be looking for from you as HR professionals, or maybe you're not an HR professional, but you work closely with HR professionals and you can provide some insight, would definitely love that. Hold on, let me see if anybody's okay. Would definitely love that as well, because it's really about sharing the stories, real life situations that are happening here in the state of Indiana as HR professionals. And how can we gather those stories? And that's what I'm looking to do. So this is what I'm going to do here. So, because that was a lot since I'm all up in your face. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is AI and automated employment decision tools. Now, AI is such a big topic because that's something that I really, really wanted to talk about, and this is on my list. But I already told myself 60 minutes if I don't get to it in 60 minutes. But what I will say is with the AI and automated employment decision tools, this is SHRM's, and I'm paraphrasing completely. SHRM's point of view is, it's about balancing innovation with responsible use and compliance. Right. So so one of the questions that we want to understand here in the state of Indiana is, how is the state thinking about AI regulation in the workplace without creating unnecessary complexity for employers? And that is SHRM's standpoint. But I also want to add in, how do we, safeguard employees' rights too? What does it look like when we think about employees as well? Right? Because, and I said I wasn't going to go too far into it. Maybe I might touch it just a bit. But I was watching a video earlier today, and it was a lot of these commencement graduations that were happening over the weekend, I guess over the past few weekends. And a lot of the speakers who came in to speak to the graduating class, they really touted how AI was just going to be amazing. Ooh, okay. Okay, I'm going to add you, Chris.
Hey, sorry to be late here.
No,
I
you're
apologize.
okay.
Yeah,
You're
sorry. I
okay.
had a little, yeah, I was working with a client, so
Okay.
sorry to
And
be
how are you
late.
doing today?
Is Rachel going to be joining us?
No, Rachel will not. She actually had to travel today.
Yeah, yeah.
So and
The
and and
hazards of the full-time job, right?
right, yes, for sure. And so what I figured is that, I was still going to go on today.
Yes, of
But I
course.
do want us all to reconvene and really talk about the HEA 1044. I know that Rachel was going to do a little bit of research on her end and to gain a little bit of more understanding of what's happening, but we know that that's coming on June 1st. So I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit today, but then really have a better conversation with all three of us, because
Do you feel
as we
comfortable taking that?
the 1044.
Yeah,
Do I feel comfortable? What do you mean by taking
speaking
that?
to it.
Speaking to it?
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
yeah.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so that's fine. That's what I meant. Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
so
yes,
you do that. Yeah. What What I was going to talk about,
yes.
medical marijuana.
Let's talk about medical marijuana
Yeah,
because they
yeah,
did kind
because
of touch on it at
there's
NIRA last
there's
week.
going to be a rep. I mean, there's at least a senator who said he's going to sponsor a bill, and of course, Governor Braun jumped out on that, and I haven't seen the bill yet, so I don't know how it's structured or set up, but just that this is not the first attempt, right? By any means. I mean, there have been medical marijuana bills before over the last 20 years.
Hmm.
Also, there's always a bill to decriminalize it, always a bill to legalize it, always a bill to allow commercial sales. I mean, that those have been around for a long, long time, but they've never gone anywhere, and I've never had any concern that they would. But this one is different, right? Because it's got a Republican Senate sponsor, and the governor's already jumped out and said, I'm for it. So
Okay.
that casts that opportunity for passage in a very different light. Right.
Okay.
So that's I wanted to talk about that. This is one in which advocacy is probably going to be required, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about it, because
Yeah.
that was a conversation that started at the in a breakout session that that was held at the NIRA conference last week. Definitely want to give a
Well,
shout out to them for a beautiful conference.
yeah,
But that was one of the
they really put on a show,
conversations.
don't they?
Yes, for sure, for sure. And it was one of those conversations that that we were talking about, was just, what does this medical marijuana look like, and what does that look like, even as far as like, if it were to pass, what does HR administration, what is HR's role in administering that, and then if there is any advocacy, how does HR participate in that, and why should HR participate in that?
Right, right, and yeah. So, the fact it kind of depends, right? And employers are all over the law, right? So I know that when it comes to um, temporary laborers or people like that, there are companies headquartered in Indiana that I won't name, that if weed's legal there, or if there is a medical exemption for it, then if you bring in that documentation, they'll accept it. And they just said, that's just the state, that the employees are in, and so it just is what it is.
Oh,
But here in
okay.
Indiana, they take a completely different, completely different tack. And so I think that's always the challenge, right? In multi-state HR management, because the states are sovereign, and they can make laws as they wish.
Well, then, Chris, how do they handle the out-of-state employees that, if their state it's legal and it's okay? How do we work with them here?
Oh no, there's no. You're subject to Indiana law.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
They're
okay,
but
okay.
no. What happens is, the challenge in multi-state HR is you cannot assume at all that how things work in Indiana is exactly how they're going to work in other states, right?
Okay.
And so it's not unusual for companies to say, hey, we got enough complexity in our business anyway, and so we're only going to operate in states that don't force a lot of complexity on us, right?
Okay.
And so
Yes,
you
that's
see them,
true.
and they'll be, oh, we have locations in Indiana, Kentucky. You can kind of see where it
Okay.
is, or a lot of southern stuff or whatnot. A lot of companies won't operate in California.
Because of that, because of
The
the
complexity,
legalization.
no, it's just the
Oh,
sheer
oh, the
complexity
complexity.
of their
Okay.
labor
Because
laws.
it's more employee friendly as opposed to employer friendly. So of course
Oh, well,
it's,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
when I
going to be
teach
hard to attract
I
those
always use
employers.
California as the exception, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, when I talk about free speech is a compact between the government and the people, not
Okay.
the
Yes.
employer and the employees. The employer has the right to control speech, and does all the time.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
why when you walk in at Chick-fil-A and you say thank you to one of your employees, they say my pleasure. They don't say anything else but my pleasure.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
matter what Chick-fil-A you go into. And it's the same way all across the nations. There speech, and speech is also clothing, right? So employers can say, wear this uniform
That's
when you're
true.
on
That's true.
duty, and do all that. And the employees don't have free speech
No,
rights,
they don't. Yeah.
except in California.
And it's just really interesting when you, and what's really interesting is the difference between, and I don't think I realized that. Wow, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
but I was going to talk about the differences between the public sector HR and private sector HR.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, the biggest difference between public sector HR and private sector HR is public sector HR is largely unionized.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you're not managing the workers as much as you're managing the contract. The contract tells you what to do. The contract tells the employees what they can and can't do, right? And which doesn't mean can the employer direct work and all that other stuff.
I don't know what in the
You want to get
world.
some water?
I did drink some water, but maybe because it's a little hot. Oh gosh, goodness gracious. But there's also that extra layer of constitutional rights that it seems like the public sector HR also needs to be a steward of.
So no, not really. They don't have those. Now they do have certain restrictions. So for instance, their public employees are extraordinarily limited in terms of the degree of political involvement they can have because of the Hatch Act.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they
or even drug testing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, but that's again a contractual item that gets negotiated, right? So the union has a say in that,
Okay, I
and
hear what you're saying.
And the employer can negotiate that in any which way the employer feels fit. So the singular biggest difference between public sector and private sector HR is that the dominant union presence and the fact that it's more contract management, I feel, than working directly with the people. You don't have anywhere near the flexibility to, in the private sector where there's almost no unions, position comes open, business is going to make the decision to put the best person in that role that they can find. And if they can find them internally, fine. And if they can externally, they'll do it, right? But there's no doubt that's what they're going to try to do, right? Fill it with the best person. Mm-hmm. In a unionized environment, it's just, okay, who has seniority? Bang, you're in. Whether you want them or not. Whether you want them or not, it doesn't matter. It just is, boom, there you go. So
that is interesting from that perspective. Okay, yeah, from the bargaining perspective, that really is just making sure that you're staying to the contract.
When you get into skilled trades, now it's very different because the employers of the skilled trades are formed into a standing, bargaining group, if you will. And they have their own lawyers and stuff like that. And they negotiate on behalf of all of the companies. So whatever they negotiate, whatever comes out of that applies to every single company that's in that group. And the companies like that because when it comes to contract bidding, you're trying to win business, your competitor cannot win on lower labor cost.
Okay. Yeah. Because
the cost is the same regardless. You're going to have to win some other way, but you aren't going to win on labor cost. You aren't going to say, I'll get it done cheaper because, I can pay my people less. Also in those arrangements, the employers have no responsibility for producing the workforce. The union does. So when they need laborers, they go to the, hiring hall, which now is online, and you need electricians, and you're required to pick the ones at the top of the list. So if you need 3 electricians, you take the 3 at the top of the list, and bang, they're hired. They have to take the job, and you're off and running. And everybody already knows that they're going to get paid. That's no
Well, this is
discussion.
interesting because I do have a different experience in public sector HR, but and it was more local. So
Well, not all public sectors are organized.
yeah, because it wasn't
But
really
at the
organized.
state level,
Okay, okay,
almost except down in the South. It's like Tennessee, no. Arkansas, no. There are states in the South where they don't even allow the public workers to organize at all. Which was
wow, okay.
the
Uh,
original writing of the National Labor Relations Act. The National Labor Relations Act, as written,
mm-hmm.
specifically prohibited public employees from joining unions. That was written out, said that could never happen because it was a conflict of interest. You would have employees bargaining with public officials who were bargaining with voters.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You're voting.
yeah, yeah. Because if it's the elected official, but
Yeah. But they are.
yeah, yeah. And I think
They
that
are.
that's what makes it hard with public sector HR because you have a role, but sometimes you get pulled into the playing. The elected officials want to
Because
play
it's an
games.
inherent, and the reason being it's inherent conflict of interest. But
Mm-hmm.
federal government changed it. John F. Kennedy changed it, and it was just off and running. Which is why today, you have almost no union representation in private sector companies. The skilled trades are all unionized, but like I said, it's a different environment. They're responsible for running the apprenticeship programs, for training all the electricians, for getting them through the journeyman program, through making them available to work. I mean, the employers don't have anything to do. Their hiring amounts to them going online and going click.
Goodness gracious.
So it's worth it to them.
Well,
To
yeah,
pay
it's
a
taxpayer
premium
dollars,
because
save time.
all that hiring, selection, development, training, recruiting, they don't have to do
But it
anything.
seems, but it seems like Indiana is really becoming competitive in the public, in the public space when it comes to hiring and recruiting. And I would say, from my opinion,
Could
I
be.
do think that private sector should be paying attention to what the state is doing with their benefits and perks, and even what I wanted to talk about today with the 1044. So when you were coming on, I was talking about the SHRM state priorities, but what I'll do is I'll just create a separate video for that, talking about those 6 priorities. So
Okay.
because I kind of started, so if anybody's listening and they're going to say she just stopped, I'm going to do that in a separate
Oh, I'm
video. Okay,
sorry.
no, that's okay.
I'm
I was
sorry.
because
Well,
no,
go ahead.
no, it's fine. No, Chris, it's fine because, like, me, I'm like one of those people that are like, you know what, this is what we planned, but if anything goes
You go
down,
with
I
the
need to be
flow.
able to do something
I
else.
know.
No, so it's okay. I do want to talk about 1044,
So
however,
you
because
take that first.
okay,
Take that first, and then I'll take up medical marijuana.
okay, because I do have some questions for you, and I really want to see
Sure.
some of your insight and what you think about this bill.
Happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay, super cool. So with this 1044, what this bill is really doing, like if we just take it down and deduce it down to simply what it's doing, is it's providing access to public safety employees who've been injured on duty, and they've been classified as a class 1 or class 2 disability benefit by NPERS. Okay, so NPERS, they go through that process and they've been classified. Okay, they receive the designation from them. Now, what this law is this law, Public Law 38, is saying is that there's a look back period from January 1st of 2020. If there is a public safety employee who was classified as a class 1 or class 2, and it happened within that frame period from January 1st up until now, that they have the opportunity to send in a written request and say that they want access to active insurance rates. So we know that typically what would happen, they would have gone to Cobra, right, and have to pay that crazy,
Right.
that fee. And so what's happening now is that if those criterias are met, then they have access to the active insurance rates. Um, Now that's all that law really does, Chris. Like when you
Well,
really read it,
when you say active insurance rates, does that mean the same rate that employees are paying? Okay, so it's not the fully burdened
yes.
premium, because the depending upon the contractual nature, right, of the public entity,
Hmm.
um, that rate's substantially lower. So that's a massive win for those people.
Yes.
Massive win. And how are they classifying public safety officers? Who's included in that?
If they participate within the in-purse retirement pension system, if
So,
they're
who
go
are the
ahead.
people that typically participate? What roles typically participate?
Police officers and firefighters.
Firefighters. So we're not talking paramedics. We're not talking, because
Oh,
because the paras,
because it didn't say that. I mean, but I did not,
right. And this is the reason I ask,
good
right?
question. Hmm.
Because you have fire rescue, for instance.
Yes.
Paralegals of fire rescue are under the fire department. I've
Yes, that's right.
never seen in a there may be some place where that's not true, but I personally have never run into that structure where they're separate. Now, if it is an ambulance associated with a hospital and is making runs, then those are typically going to be hospital employees.
I think that's a great question. Who
And
are
then
those impacted?
you have lots of private entities that
Hmm.
serve the rural communities. Now, because they're private, they're not going to be subject to this. This is a public employee benefit, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So, but that was the reason I was asking, how do you define
The public safety
this
employee.
public safety person?
Because
Because when you stopped at firefighter, I was like, okay, they left it short for a reason.
yes, and you know what? Because if I recall correctly, when I was managing some of these things,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was because you had to have like the firefighter or police officer certification criteria, because then that allows you to like participate in the. But I think the paramedics did too. So I think that's a great question. I'm curious how, and I think this is the reason why I wanted to talk about it, because it
Yeah,
seems like a
I
lot
think
of HR professionals have questions.
I think it would
I'm trying to
depend on how
gather.
they're organized, and I think an HR pro in one of these public entities would probably know the answer to that question.
Well, no, well, to that question, the public safety, yes. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
they probably would
and
have an answer to that one
do
for
those
sure.
criteria. For instance, with
Yes.
the fire rescue, I would assume that they're they'd be part of the fire department, right? I mean, they go on those runs. I mean, they're not firefighters themselves,
And they
but
are a public safety employee, and they were considered
like I said,
essential.
they roll the fire
Yeah.
trucks. It isn't like
So that's right.
the paramedic truck stays in the barn. I mean, they roll it all.
And yeah, that's true. That's
So
true.
I
But here are the questions that they were really
sure.
asking about it. They were wondering, so the law doesn't say that there's a reimbursement, for the look
Okay.
back. But I mean, what's considered like, what would you consider is best practices, or, fair, what's the word, in good judgment, or, because I would think that you can't go back and pay anything because this is taxpayer dollars.
Well, the look back, the look back is specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in my experience, when you see look backs, and they're not all that common,
Mm-hmm.
okay? The closest analogy I can think of, it's the inverse of that. But like with 401k, if you, for a period there, if you were a certain age, like if you were between 55 and 65 or something, you could do what was referred to as catch-up contributions, where
Yes.
you could exceed
Yes.
the otherwise annual ceiling on 401k contribution, right? Because there's always been a ceiling, because the federal government's always had a limit on how much revenue it's willing to forego for the current period, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like the inverse of it. But my point is this: whether you're doing a catch-up period or a look-back period, the point of view is that this is a corrective, meaning this is something we should have fixed earlier. And so we have not on purpose, not by design, not any of these other things, but there's just a cohort of people that we think we kind of maybe shafted. And so
So
we're going to take this action, right? But they are narrow, like this one is here. It goes back to this period of time. This is very typical, right? When you do this, it's a narrow window. I'm sure it sunsets. There is.
You know what? That because somebody had talked about sunsetting another legislation, and then I thought to myself, I should research if this sunsets, because it doesn't look like it sunsets, because some of the concerns that I'm hearing is that it's indefinitely.
Because it takes care of itself, so it had to be, by 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so younger people right now wouldn't be able to take advantage of that.
Okay.
I would think because they wouldn't have been in the window. But if it's,
let me look.
Usually sunsets are put in place when you're trying to control the risk, right?
Because I would think that they should, right, to give the people an opportunity to kind of look at this again and say, is this something that we're willing to do as taxpayers, is pay for, a benefit indefinitely.
Well, and that's very common. So, for instance, in the big beautiful bill that was passed, the no tax on tips has a sunset.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, the no tax on overtime.
What? You did show it in the presentation.
Yeah. They have sunsets, and this is, again, not unusual when you're in situations where you're putting public money at play in a way that wasn't necessarily initially planned.
Yes.
Right. So whether it's saying, hey, we're going to pay because with this window that's open, they're clearly willing to absorb expenses they otherwise wouldn't have. Right.
No sunset. No sunset on this.
Yeah.
No sunset. And I think that's the concern. It was like indefinitely.
Yeah.
We're paying.
Yeah. I'm kind of.
And then qualified life events. Like, how does that happen? We know that qualified life events, there's different opportunities for an active, employee to be able to, join, get on the insurance or make the changes that is necessary.
Well,
how does that work with this? How could it work with this?
Well, so think about it, right?
Okay.
QREs, Cobra is the best example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's say an employee, let's say you have an employee, they have a spouse, kids, they go on Cobra. Those dependents, that spouse are covered on the plan, right? They now get a divorce qualifying event.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to give the opportunity to the spouse, the divorced spouse, right, who had coverage. They would have had coverage otherwise, but for. So the divorce severs it. So you gotta give them the same opportunity that the employee is carrying forward on. It's a qualifying event, and the employee's long gone. None of this stuff is even associated with you anymore as a company, other than Cobra lashed you to the mast, right? So
you've had people really engage with the Cobra and really pay the Cobra and
I did.
Okay.
I did in earlier years. So when Cobra first came out. And nobody understood it, and everybody messed it up, and it was a nightmare for a couple of years. But premiums weren't crazy yet.
Oh, okay. So the premiums weren't okay because
the premiums weren't crazy yet. So that
okay.
because remember, Cobra passed. Let's see.
In 890.
I'm trying to think the employer I was at. I was at Camp Pubs. So that was 80.
You know what? I do know.
I think that was like 80, 85. Oh. Yeah. Wait a minute. Cobra.
No, I thought it came out the same time around HIPAA, but
it did not. It was before HIPAA.
It was before. Okay.
It was before HIPAA. So I think Cobra was Bush elder.
So it used to be affordable. So is that what I'm hearing you saying, that it was a little bit more affordable back then?
It was. You got to remember, your only other choice was to go out on the open market and get these individual policies and things like that. And of course, you had your medical exam. It's all underwriting. It was a whole mess to get non-employer coverage. Employer coverage was the game.
Okay.
Yeah, and the premiums had not gone out absolutely insane, and people oftentimes elected for Cobra and then were successful in finding a job before they actually had to pay.
Okay.
They never paid. Remember, because you don't have to pay right away on Cobra. You can wait to pay. But it balloons. So if you haven't paid, bang, your opportunity's gone. The whole shebang falls apart, right? And so people would elect for it, so they would have it if they needed it, and then look for another job. And the economy was in a different spot at that time. And you got to remember, straight from Ronald Reagan all the way through Bill Clinton, it was just like that, right? The economy. So finding a job wasn't the challenge that it is.
Wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like these rates, compared to Cobra, I can definitely see where, people are not going to use Cobra. They're going to look at that and say, I'll look for something else. But to be able to stay on, active employee rates, and then being able to have access to the benefit at any time.
But remember, Cobra is 102% of the true premium.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an administrative fee. That's a 2%. Mm-hmm. And the full premium. Now, employees usually freaked when they saw, what the full premium amount was.
Yeah, that's right. Because we saw it on the back end.
They did not realize how much the company subsidized, even though we said it a million times. But I
think sometimes it is hard to understand what really happens behind the scenes.
Cobra, of course, didn't go away, and the obligation to notify employees of Cobra opportunity, or former employees of
the Cobra
opportunities remains in place.
Yeah, it remains in place, but
the
it's
duties
laughable.
are all there. The duties remain, but the fact of the matter is, in an awful lot of cases, going onto a marketplace, Affordable Care Act marketplace plan, especially if you're in a major metro area where they're pretty robust in terms of doctors being in the plan, stuff like that. That's often cheaper than Cobra.
Yeah, for sure. So then from your perspective, what would you say, what would be considered best practice if class 1, class 2 designees, now are part of the active insurance, what would the best
Well,
practice be for qualified life events?
Well, it's just part of your risk pool, and you treat them like you would,
Okay.
any other person,
Okay.
in that class, right? I
Okay.
mean,
So active participants, whatever you do for them, open
if if
enrollment,
that's
open.
if that's what you do now,
Hmm.
and these are people who are disabled, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think perhaps one of the reasons that they didn't sunset it is that the fact that you have to be disabled is a relatively high bar. Not everybody's going to meet that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
your overall risk about how many lives you're going to cover. Now, risk of disability goes up significantly with peace officers, right? I mean, the fair
Mm-hmm.
number of police are disabled. A lot of firefighters get disabled because of the natural hazards of their work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so so yeah, but when it comes to actually administering it and managing, it sounds like it's going to be like anybody else that's on the plan,
Mm.
right? And
Okay.
what's a little muddy is these people are actually no longer employees, correct? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're
Mm-hmm.
disabled. Yeah. So
And I think the question is really like, if there's a spouse who's working at the time that they, the disabled employee or, past former
yeah,
employee comes
yeah,
on the plan.
yeah.
If the spouse hasn't their a spouse is working and they have insurance, they won't need to come on the plan. But if they lose their job, then that means that they
Well,
have
that's
the
going to be a QE, right?
mm,
That's going to be a qualifying. I can't see how it wouldn't be a qualifying event. You're otherwise. Did my
okay.
camera go off?
Yeah, your camera did go off. So that's I was just like, what just
Weird.
happened here?
Oh,
Um you
I didn't get any notification that
because
the.
you're talking and I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Um,
All right, and I see
but
my picture.
do you see your picture?
I see my picture.
Let me see what's going on. Is okay. I'm gonna remove you from the stage and then I'm gonna add you. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add you back.
Yeah. Oh, there I am.
Okay, that was weird. Yeah, but yeah, that was
Don't
because
worry
it
about
said
it.
you were
Yeah.
on stage.
So
But okay, so then that is the way that you're seeing it, and that's what
I think that's how it's likely going to play out because you're going
okay.
to have to create a special class because these folks aren't actually employees.
Mm-hmm.
So how they're treated within it, including qualifying events and their access to those and things like that. But it sounds like they built those in. Um, it's going to be it's going to be a unique class of beneficiaries because you really
Mm-hmm.
can't call them employees because they're not.
Because exactly, and
Yeah,
and I think that
so
that's
they're
why.
beneficiaries. It's almost like they're, quite frankly, it's almost like they're quasi retirees.
Yes,
With
yeah, like a
access.
retired. I agree, and it seems like it's in
Probably
that
a
sort of
closer analogy.
space. But it
Yeah.
seems like you would classify them differently. So these are just but I think that this is the reason why I think it's really important to get involved, really get involved before policies become actual
Oh,
state laws, right? Because
yes.
of this. Because I know
Yeah.
that there's also questions with the interplay with the hurt on duty, which is are you familiar with that? Where it's the compensation, it's not workers' compensation, but it works with workers' compensation that they
Yes.
get. Okay.
Yes.
And so there's confusion.
It's a
How does it all
separate
work?
it's a separate payment,
It says,
a
mm-hmm,
separate plan. The most police departments have these.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so
Oh,
really the question is how does it interact? Because it just pretty much seems like,
so
you can pretty much have your medical bills taken care of through the hurt on duty.
so I will answer the way I always answer in situations like this. It depends on the union contract.
And that's true. And that's true. Because
And
Rachel did say that when I was talking to her briefly last
yeah,
week about it. Hmm.
in which way it goes, but generally speaking, the um, the union plan would probably sit behind the workers' comp plan for the city, and then if the employee was out anything, receive reduced benefit or out anything, then this plan had come sweeping in and make them whole.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
And that's what it sounds like as well, that pretty
Yeah.
much, so I mean, so it's hard to go against it, because you definitely want, you definitely see that, people who are in this public safety
Yeah.
role, they should be taken care of. I mean, no doubt about that. It's
Their
like, what
job
is that?
involves significant risk.
That's right. That's right. It's just,
And a certain percentage die on the job. So it's
and
not
it's disheartening. I
it's
mean,
not for the faint of heart.
no, for sure. And so
Right.
that's why it's like, especially policies like this, because you definitely don't want to feel like you're coming against, because you're not coming against. But how do you do your job as HR professionals and do it right? And you
Well,
do it
it's
where people are informed.
it's about balancing, right? I mean, we all know nobody's arguing that peace officers aren't important or don't need to be supported
That's
to a
right.
very high
Nobody's saying that.
degree, respected, and all that. But public dollars are not infinite.
No.
And so you have duties across the entire sweep of government. They're not the only government employees, right? And so there you have to kind of do what's reasonable or the best you can, right?
Mhm.
So anyway, so
Okay.
we've got a little bit of time left here. Do you
Yes,
want me
we
to
do.
talk?
So just to finish off this topic
Oh.
is that we're going to be talking more about this, and I'll be sharing out more information where a lot of the HR professionals working in municipalities will be coming together to have conversations about this.
Good.
So I'll definitely be sharing information out with the public as well about that. But we're just getting the conversation going. So yes, Chris, let's talk about the medical marijuana.
Yeah, so I want to talk about medical marijuana. Now, there are a number of states where medical marijuana is available. Now, in a lot of these states, it's become kind of irrelevant because virtually every state that started out just doing medical marijuana now allows marijuana to be sold commercially.
Okay.
So that's why I said it's become kind of irrelevant because you no longer need a doctor to get weed.
Oh, okay.
Right. I mean, is what it comes down to.
Yes.
And that's why, they now presumably, if you're using it for a medical reason, you would want to do it under medical supervision, and dosage will be important or whatnot. I'm not making light of that. I'm just saying that that's a smaller population than actually consumes. So Indiana has consistently turned back efforts to allow medical marijuana. There have, over the last 20 years, the time I was in my government affairs role before you took it over, no more than I mean, there were significant efforts with a lot of money and a lot of push over the years. There was one time where I was kind of concerned. I thought they might get that over the line because they had a lot of Vietnam veterans, that were pushing for that. Now, granted, this is
back then,
25 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. More better.
But I mean, there have been multiple attempts, and Indiana's consistently turned it away. There have been bills to legalize marijuana, decriminalize marijuana, allow for medical marijuana. You name it. I mean, there's typically 4 or 5 marijuana bills a year that are offered that never get a hearing.
Okay.
Never even get a hearing. So it's not anything I've really worried about. Right.
Okay. I hear, but
yeah. So, just a couple of weeks ago, I read that a Republican senator, Mike Bohochek.
Okay, that's how you say it.
Yeah, I believe I I pronounced that name correctly.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say Bohasic, but
If
hey,
I didn't, I apologize.
I apologize too.
Yeah, it kind of depends. Did you get your name changed by the Irish guy at Ellis Island, or did they just leave you alone? Whether they
True. True.
anglicized
Yeah.
your Eastern European name. That happened to a lot of my ancestors that coming through Ellis got their names jacked around with because the person there couldn't figure it out. Too many consonants, So he has announced that he will be authoring a bill in this session to allow medical marijuana. And this is a Republican, right? And then not even 2 hours after that, so that press release came out. Not even 2 hours after that, another press release rolls out, and this is Governor Braun saying he thinks that's a fantastic idea. Right.
Oh, so it was 2 hours later. Oh,
I may be wrong on
moves.
the two. It may have been one, but I mean, it was clearly staged.
Yeah, clearly calls were made beforehand.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't have any problem with it per se. I mean, I think it was.
But I guess I'm pointing that out.
From a political standpoint, I think it was well done. But
pointing it out to say how different, like, is that why you're concerned this year?
So
for next year.
Yeah. So there's been no medical marijuana bill that had a Republican sponsor, number one.
Oh,
that's never happened.
Okay, I didn't pay attention to that. Okay.
No. I mean, a Republican no vote on marijuana has been about as guaranteed in the Indiana legislature as you could possibly get for the last, 20 years. But times have changed. And
I mean, overnight then, from last year to this.
Well, I think that
this year to next year.
Well, keep in mind the Republicans hold a supermajority in the House and in the Senate. If a bill decriminalizing marijuana were to pass, it would not be a Democrat authored bill. It would be a Republican authored bill. I mean, let's be real. They're not going to give credit to the D.
Okay.
I mean, let's just be blunt.
I mean, okay, because I was just going to say, like, you really no Republican,
No, I'm sure
legislature signed on it before, sponsored a bill. So it's interesting.
Remember, I've said this a lot. The Republicans in Indiana. Now, I'm not talking about central Indiana, Marion County, center of gravity, old style establishment Republican. Okay, so I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about all the other Republicans, right? In the other 91 counties. So a lot of them have a libertarian bent. Okay, so I'm not saying they're libertarians, because they're absolutely not. But they have a libertarian bent. And so when it comes to things where the government tells you, the government saying you can't do something, it strikes them as being only involving the individual and harming nobody else and this other stuff, then they get kind of wound up about it. Right now, this is where, I differ. Right. So my concern is first, like I said, the history of medical marijuana has been, when it gets passed, within a number of years, marijuana is legal and commercial. Right.
Okay, so it's the gateway. Okay.
Well, all I'm saying is it's history. Now, I'm not making a slippery slope argument, because I don't think those are very persuasive.
Okay.
So, but I'm stating fact.
Okay, happened. It's happened.
Yeah, I could lay out a chart that showed the year of medical marijuana, and here's the year of decriminalization, and here's the year of legalization, and here's.
And that makes sense, because they're experimented and they said, okay.
Well, I think the folks who want marijuana legalized are made a decision decades ago to play a long game. So they're just playing a long game. So how do they get started? Right. And these are
Oh,
the steps. These are the
that
steps
you
you have
kind
to
of
go through. These
unfold
are
throughout the
to
years.
get to ultimately what you want is commercial viability. So,
Okay,
but
makes
be that
sense.
as it may, um, this completely changes the tenor of the possibility of the bill passing, because you can assume there's going to be a certain number of Republicans in the Senate are going to vote for that. Now, is it enough to get it over the line? I don't know, but you have 19 Democrats that'll vote for it. I know that. So,
Okay,
right? I mean, so
okay.
you have that.
So then, so let me ask you, what concerns should HR professionals have um, with if it were to pass? What are some of the things HR people would have to think about?
So yeah, so the challenge is, first of all, it impacts drug testing,
Okay.
right? Because the thing you have to remember about marijuana is that it's active element, the element that makes you high.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in medical marijuana, this is supposed to be reduced or stripped out. I
Okay.
I have my doubts about that, but anyway, it's supposed to be reduced or stripped out. Here's the thing, that THC, the way it interacts with humans, um, is that it lodges in the lymph nodes, right? So
Okay.
that's where the THC lands.
Okay.
So when you just think about any standard drug test, depending upon a person's physiology, they could pop for marijuana use 6 months after they consumed it.
Okay.
Now,
Okay. Okay.
another person, wouldn't pop, and they consumed it, a month ago. So
Oh,
it's
really?
yeah, everybody's physiology is different, and so
Okay.
the frequency of consumption, how much THC is taken in, these are all factors that if you're hitting marijuana pretty hard, like on an every other day basis, you're really packing your lymph nodes with THC. And I'm pretty confident you're going to pop a drug test. So
Okay.
if they had a medical marijuana exemption, right, they would inform you ahead of time, hey, here's my weed card, and then you would ignore the results in the drug test,
Hmm.
much like when we give drug tests to people who are being treated for some medical condition. And so they know, what they're taking, and the volume at which they're taking it, and they know it's going to pop on the drug test. They
Hmm.
always go, here's the prescription, here's my doctor. They give you all
Yes.
that information, but it's not going to be forever. They're just in a course of treatment, right?
Okay. So I see
When
what you're
they're done
saying.
with the script, they're done with the drug.
Okay.
So the HR professionals would deal with this the way they would deal with any of those disclosures, right? We've always allowed, if you've got a medical condition that's being treated and there's a reason for you to be taking this, again, it's prescribed, and the
Mm-hmm.
medical marijuana would be prescribed. See what I mean? So that's what gives
Mm-hmm.
it the protection to do that. So it's not so much that you're going to pop the test, but here's the thing about the medical marijuana prescriptions: they tend to be perpetual. So for
Okay.
instance, I'm on a antibiotic right now, and will be for 2 more weeks. I can't wait to get rid of it. It's messing with my
Yeah.
stomach and my appetite and everything else. I hate it.
Sorry to hear that, Chris.
And yeah. But as soon as it's done, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm done. The marijuana prescriptions tend to be for like a whole year.
Okay.
And you have no way of knowing as an employer when they consumed it.
Yeah, because I guess, yeah, especially when you talked about it being in the lymph nodes. And then, if something happens 6 months later, but you haven't
Well, what happens
consumed
if they get
it,
in an accident?
yeah, so then,
And you
okay,
have an
so I
accident,
can,
they're driving a
okay,
forklift, they get in an accident. That's typically an auto drug test.
it is. And so, but if they haven't consumed it,
Well, but you
but it's
don't
still within their
know because
body.
no, yeah, you don't know.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay,
the same
okay,
thing with alcohol. The
okay,
alcohol cycles through the body. The human will process alcohol through their body, generally speaking, in 24 hours. Now,
okay,
for a detectable amount. Now, they may have a hellacious hangover that impacts their ability to function. But in terms of if they were driving and got pulled over and were breathalyzed, they wouldn't pop,
okay,
even
okay.
though even though they were completely drunk
Wasted
as a
the day
yeah
before
the
or
day
something.
before. See, marijuana
Okay,
doesn't work that way. That's my whole point. This is
okay,
where this is one of the things that's challenging because we do not yet have detection tools to say, did the person consume this last night when they were suffering from anxiety or dealing with a seizure exposure or something? These are typical
yeah, typical reasons for how they would be
typical
prescribed
reasons
for to
for these
use
prescriptions.
marijuana.
Yeah. So did you do it last night or were you smoking this morning before you hopped on the forklift? I don't know.
Yeah,
And
okay,
I have no detection tool that would tell me that with any kind of precision.
huh.
I don't know.
See, and that's a good point.
This is
That's a great point. Yeah.
this is what's driving the police nuts in states where marijuana has been commercialized. Is the driving well stoned?
Because I've
It,
seen signs like that driving out of town. It said high driving is still drunk driving or buzz driving or
it
something
is,
like that.
but what they're applying is the old rules that they had for drunk driving before breathalyzers came out. Okay, get out, walk the line, touch your nose with your fingers,
Oh, oh, that's what they're okay.
Well, it's the only practice they had for determining impairment,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's the only tool in their toolkit. And even though people say people are working on, a marijuana breathalyzer, so to speak, so far one has not come to market. No.
That's funny that that's something that's being worked on too. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, yeah, because
yeah.
you're right. Driving high is driving
Yeah,
impaired.
that's yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
100% true. We just don't have the technology
So
uh,
like really,
to
okay.
ascertain that. The police observe, right, but they don't know for sure. So you have the same
Okay.
kind of challenge. You have the same kind of challenge at work, right? Um, so they would be off the hook, so to speak, for any kind of drug testing you would do, if they have that medical exemption for it. The other concern I have in this, and this is where it comes to influencing the bill.
Mm-hmm.
So when, like I said, the idea of using marijuana in a medical environment has been around since the 1960s, right? I mean, this is not a new thing.
Okay. I did
And
not, okay.
yeah,
I guess I
now
haven't really researched it, but okay.
yeah, now I came across a study. It's a longitudinal one, 6 years it ran
Okay.
in Australia, and it completely shatters and debunks that marijuana is effective on either seizure or anxiety
Hmm.
in any kind of durable sense. But and I'd be willing to present that in testimony. But uh, the pharmaceutical industry got involved early on, and I forget the company that did it. It skips my mind, but they developed a product called Marinol, Marinol,
Mm-hmm.
and it was meant to be and is a marijuana substitute. It just has no THC, so just no ability to get high.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, for instance, if this bill were to advance as I would expect, it depends on what the Senate pro tem does, right? But
You
we
mean
have,
like as far as if they want to hear it?
well, I think the governor wants it, so it's going to get a hearing. Now, I
Okay.
don't know what committee it will go to. It will go, well, it would go to public health, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Okay.
I don't know. You could also put it. You could also put it in labor and pension, right? Because it affects employers.
Now, Chris, what about for people that might say, well, the fact that, we don't have any laws, regarding medical marijuana or marijuana means that marijuana is being sold here in the state of Indiana without regulations. And so
Oh,
therefore,
absolutely.
we're unable to even protect Hoosiers because it's not even being regulated, but it's being purchased.
Yes.
How do you go around that? Like, how do we create responsible
You
governance
don't. We have
around
law.
this?
We have laws against all kinds of things. That's illegal.
Mhm.
You
So
do
then
that.
why is it being purchased? Like,
You're
why is it in the
moving. You're
stores?
moving weight. You're going to get busted for the weight.
You
I'm
said
not
moving
kidding.
weight.
Now,
I know, but that was a funny way to say
the
it.
police are disinterested in the people with the odd joint or so. And in any event, almost nobody smokes weed anymore. That's an old person's thing.
They
The
consume
younger
it
people,
in drinks. I said they consume it, right? In
they
drinks
consume it.
and
Oh yeah, it's cookies
yes,
and
and
gummy
cookies
bears.
and gummy bears.
How no cop's going to know whether a gummy bear is in a person's pocket or actual gummy bears or
That's
marijuana.
true.
Idea at all. So yeah, but it's still illegal. It's still a class 1 narcotic. It's still against federal law. I mean, these are not minor bumps in the road. These are major things, right? Federal
Yes.
violations of federal law is no joke. And so, but I kind of get your point. But we also have laws against speeding, and I've been on the highway many times where if I drove 70, people were blowing by me like I was sitting
I
still.
know. And it's
Now,
like, I am going fast.
right. So the way we work with things is that we make it very clear what's legal and what's not. And then people who choose to break the law are subject to the consequences. That's just how we do it. There's only so much you can do. We do the same thing in HR all the time. These are the company's policies. These are the company's rules. This is our culture. These are the red lines. You cross this line, you're gone. That's it. No story, no nothing. We do that all the time.
No, that's absolutely true.
I don't know any organization that functions capably without rules, without guidelines, without direction. If there's a successful model out there based on anarchy, I'd like to see it. So I don't think it exists.
Because I'm hearing that's what some of the arguments, for is that we don't have regulation and it is being purchased here in the state of Indiana.
So and another thing I'll tell you, I am not confident all the medical community wants to touch this with a 10-foot pole. I'm really not. I would not be surprised to see them oppose this.
Okay. Now I know that we're coming up, we're actually about like 10 minutes over the
10
hour.
minutes over, yeah.
But you know what? I definitely want to talk about this again because
Yeah,
last week Rachel was she was talking about this as a hot topic, and she
yes.
talked about and I definitely wanted to talk about it here on the podcast as well. She was talking about a writer where the DOJ has like a writer that they say something about that you can't criminally charge someone for marijuana or something like that, and that they're moving it to a class 2, and I don't fully remember everything that she
So,
was saying, but I
so,
feel like she would really add a
so,
lot of different
yeah.
perspective to the conversation
So,
as
okay.
well.
I think I can put a little more context around that.
Uh-huh.
So um, President Biden made uh, no bones at all about his desire for marijuana to be legalized. He talked
Okay.
about it quite a bit. He wanted it. The
Okay.
FDA has classified marijuana as a class 1 narcotic. And
Uh-huh.
he told him, I want that downgraded so that it won't be criminal. It won't be all this other stuff. And the FDA, his own FDA, told him no.
Oh, okay.
So when President Trump said the very same thing, his own FDA told him no.
Oh,
Every
okay.
FDA for the last 50 years has told
Well,
every president no. Class
it's
1
so
narcotic,
interesting.
period.
Okay, so
They
it
haven't
hasn't
come off
changed.
that dime.
Okay.
So uh, you can maneuver around the edges all you want, but as long as that thing is a class 1 narcotic, that puts it into a category where it's you can't move it. This is why the commercial, in the states where they have commercial sales, these people get robbed all the time.
That's right, because we did talk about that because it's not covered
They're
federally, they
not
cannot put their
bankable.
money in a
No,
bank, so
if a
they have to hold
federal
on to
bank
cash.
touches that cash, they might as well
Okay.
be dealing with the Sonoma cartel. They're
Okay.
out of business. The federal government will shut them down.
So that's why they cannot have put their
No,
money in a bank or something, keep it safe
no,
that way. So,
no, and you can't do it.
okay.
But do you know what you have to do? You have to pay tax. So these people have to pay cash in tax. So they have to hire like armored car guards to take them, drive them to the county seat so that they can all that money in and pay their taxes.
Wow. Now that's
It,
really
it, it's
interesting.
it's insane. I mean, quite frankly, why anybody does it at all is, to me, mind-boggling. But I mean, I don't mean consumes it. What I mean is, because I don't have necessarily an opinion on that, but because people know the consequences thereof. But no, but the business model is just tough and
Mhm.
dangerous. So
So I definitely want to keep this conversation going
yeah,
for sure, because I know that if anything,
I
they're
had
going to
not
be
heard
entertaining
about. I had not
conversations.
heard about the. I had not heard about the writer.
Okay,
You know,
yeah, it was just
yeah,
very interesting,
yeah.
and I definitely
If
want
you
Rachel
were,
to talk about that.
yeah. Well, I kind of understand one, because if you were talking to the average police officer, do they
Hmm.
want to spend time busting people with weed or drug?
Probably not. I mean,
No,
there's things that
no.
are way
They
more
would say, I got bigger fish to fry,
serious.
I got other stuff to do and stuff like that. Where they're very interested in doing that is when they want to arrest somebody and they want a good reason for doing it. And then
Of
they're
course.
all for so
I mean, but honestly, isn't it kind of human nature in a way to kind of,
it,
you
it,
know,
it is. It is.
so
And
and so it makes
so, but
sense.
the thing with, to me, the thing with decriminalization, okay, because this is what happened in Colorado. Okay.
Hmm.
When you decriminalize legally, all you're saying is, I won't prosecute you or punish you. I, the government,
Hmm.
will not prosecute you or punish you for doing this. That isn't true about employers at all.
Okay, so
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 when you
employers have a
decriminalize, yeah. And so what happened in Colorado, when they did that, they criminalized it, made it, people said, okay, weed is now legal. No, being decriminalized is not saying it's legal.
oh, it means that okay, so I see it.
We
So that's
just
like
won't prosecute you.
okay.
That's all it is. We won't rack you up on this. Okay. So you have all of these companies. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is why it's such a mess. You have all of these companies. If you are a federal contractor and you do only $100,000 a year in revenue with the federal government, which is couch change, right?
Mm-hmm. Compared to yes,
Yeah, I mean, you only do $100,000.
they lose money bigger than
You are
that.
subject to the Drug-Free Workplace Act, which means there's a whole pile of duties and that you got to have a drug policy. You got to do, all this stuff. Schools can't hire people who can't pass a drug test. Hospitals, nope. Banks, nope. Transportation, nope. Nuclear energy, nope. You go down the list and you have whole categories of employment that are slammed shut to you
Because of the
if you
inflation.
drop a drug test. And if you go into them and say, no, it's actually okay, it's decriminalized.
See, and I hear what you're saying, Chris, and I think that that's why there needs to be a bigger conversation because it just because I think that what we don't want, for me at least, for employers to now control people. Like, we already have government.
What the director of government affairs for Colorado, I
Mhm.
ran into him a year after they had done that, right? I ran into him in DC. And I said, so you guys have had a year of this. How is it affecting HR? And he said, it has been an utter disaster. He said, it poisoned our labor pool. Those were his words.
Well,
It
yeah, and I
poisoned
see from
our
his
labor pool
perspective,
because
you
people
know.
couldn't pass drug tests.
Because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I
Yeah.
definitely want to have because I think it's a bigger conversation because I hear what's being said about now people can't really apply for different positions that are that are needed because now they're partaking in something that's been decriminalized, but the employers have not decriminalized that. They are looking for
No, and
people
in
to
some
come
cases,
in
especially with a
clean.
lot of public entities,
Yeah,
that's
but it
literally
still
written
feels
into
like, but
it's
it still
written
feels
into
like
law.
we're trying to
Yeah,
control people. And so it
yeah.
just seems like there needs to be more conversation where employees get to be a part of this conversation. Because it seems like we're trying to control what they do on their outside time. And I think that that's where I never want to, get that's where I
Well, I
always
already
kind of,
told you
I
the
trouble with
problem is,
that.
I already told you the problem. You can't, with any kind of precision, understand inside time or outside time. Did they consume it at their house at 8
Yeah,
o'clock
and
last night,
marijuana. Sure.
or was it 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, it blurs the lines. And I totally understand that it blurs the lines. Um,
And you don't know. And I haven't even talked about workers' comp yet.
and that's why I want us to have these conversations because I
I
think
mean,
that we really need to
yeah,
dive in and give
yeah.
people
You
an
think
opportunity to understand from all angles of all
you
stakeholders.
imagine a manufacturing company where the jobs can be dangerous. The workers have to be frosty. There's lots of moving parts and stuff like that. You think that workers' comp insurer is going to be delighted if
That's true.
marijuana gets decriminalized, or are they going to say, here are your new rates?
And that's fair too because that's a risk,
Do you
right?
see what I
So
mean?
yeah, everything changes.
This to me, I see this like a line of dominoes.
Just
And
knocking
too
it all
many
the way
people are
down.
looking at the first domino and they think, well, if I just knock that over, I'll get what I want. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's a lot of issues. And I mean,
you are.
because the more and more we talk about it, I mean, because workers' comp, yeah, you're right. That would change. I mean, insurance benefits or, just the risk within the workplace will
The
definitely
whole thing,
change.
the whole thing scares me to death. I
Really?
mean,
Okay.
honest to God, I feel like it's Pandora's box. I mean, I
and
really do.
and I think I haven't heard enough. I mean, I haven't heard any stories, and that's why I think it's
Mhm.
important for me to ask more questions and hear more stories, to hear
Yeah.
perspectives.
Well, we're way past time here.
We
So
are way past time, but
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you so much, Chris, for joining.
You're so welcome.
Um,
I'm sorry to be late. I
no,
apologize.
you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
It is what it is. It still
Yeah.
worked out great. So
All right.
super cool. Thank you so much,
Well,
Chris.
take
All
care.
right. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.